Ladies and gentlemen, if we could all just please rise for the arrival of the Right Honourable Sarah Wangela Madila, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia. I promise you she's coming. She's outside. I saw her. I'm not lying. I promise you. I'm not lying. I promise you she's outside. If we could all just please remain standing for the singing of the national and the AU anthem. much. We can all be seated. Right Honorable Sarah Madila, Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, Her Excellency Mildred Jantjies, former Executive Secretary of Pan-African Women's Organization and founding matron of the Pan-African Renaissance, Her Excellency Sarah Lee Elago, Chairperson of the Pan-African Renaissance and President of the African Youth Union, Madam Zanele Mazibuko, Vice Chairperson of PAR, Mr. Patrick Stephenson, Head of International Relations at PAR, Mr. Marvin Kapenda, Executive Member of PAR, Dr. Matthews Ayebakuro, International Development and Governance Expert at the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ms. Yolokazi Mfuto, Civil Society Liaison Officer at the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Dennis Sankele Case, Executive Director at the Kenyan Youth Senate, Ms. Nancy Njeri, Kenyan Youth Senate, Ms. Ntsika Maweni, AU Youth Convener under the Office of the AU Youth Envoy in South Africa, Ms. Renee Sekwari, Education Expert in South Africa. Distinguished invited guests, members of the media, and ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all and welcome to my Pan-African house. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you to the Pan-African Renaissance 2nd Young Africans Leadership Summit. My name is Rosita Ndumbu, a lawyer, researcher, a fellow Pan-Africanist, and for today and the remainder of the proceedings, I will be your Director of Ceremonies. Now, on behalf of PAR, I would like to extend our gratitude to you for honoring our invitation this morning. Now, we gather here today under the theme, Building an Ecosystem of Transformative Leaders. A theme that I dare say resonates deeply in our hearts and speaks to the aspirations of our continent. The Young Africans Leadership Summit is not just an event. It is a convergence of dreams, ideas, and aspirations that have the power to shape the trajectory of Africa's future. Our continent's progress relies on the emergence of visionary leaders who can navigate challenges, inspire change, and drive innovation. And this summit is testament to our commitment to fostering such leaders who will steer Africa towards prosperity, equity, and sustainability. Over the course of the summit, we hope that we will engage in insightful discussions, share inspiring stories, and forge meaningful connections. We're also here to network. We have brought together a diverse array of speakers, thought leaders, and change makers, each with their own unique experiences and perspectives to add. Through their wisdom and insights, we aim to cultivate an ecosystem that nurtures and empowers the leaders that Africa deserves. Now, having said that, it is only fitting that this auspicious occasion be opened by someone who embodies what it means to be a transformative leader. Her presidency of the African Youth Union amplifies her commitment to youth empowerment. And through the Pan-African Renaissance, our host for today, she fosters global solidarity, emphasizing Pan-African ideals with a profound advocacy for marginalized groups, and she's also at the forefront of advancing social justice, human rights, and youth welfare across the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome with a robust round of applause the President of the African Youth Union and the Chairperson of the Pan-African Renaissance, Her Excellency Sarah Lee Elago. You can clap still. I wanted to say that. Amandla! 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 Mayibuye!
Prime Minister, Madam Sarah Madila, Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, Her Excellency Mildred Yankees, founding matron of the Pan-African Renaissance and former Secretary General of the Pan-African Women Organization, Madam Zanele Mazibuko, the Vice Chairperson of the Pan-African Renaissance, Mr. Patrick Stephenson, Head of International Relations, Pan-African Renaissance, Mr. Marvin Kapenda, Member of the Executive Committee, Pan-African Renaissance, Dr. Matthew Ayibakuro, International Developer and Governance Expert, British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Madam Yolokazi Mfutu, Civil Society Liaison Officer, Pan-African Parliament, Madam Nsika Maweni, AU Youth Convener, Madam Lunai Sikware, our Education Expert, Mr. Dennis Case, Executive Director of the Kenyan Youth Senate, Madam Nancy Nyeri, Kenyan Youth Senate, Mr. Austin Samupwa, the Executive Director of the SWAPO Party in Namibia, Madam Milka Mungunda, the Executive Director, friend of the Pan-African Renaissance Social Security Commission. I'm not sure if Madam Sade is here, but I will mention her. Madam Sade, Governor's former mayor of the city of Windhoek, members of the PAR Executive Committee present, distinguished participants, invited guests, members of the media present, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Festus Hangula from the Africa Peer Review Mechanism in our midst as well. We acknowledge your presence. Right Honorable Prime Minister, I stand before you in this conference both excited and nervous. Excited that we emerged victorious over the challenges and disappointments we experienced along the journey. The journey was long, hard, lonely at some point. Doors were being shut in our faces. Letters of regret flowed freely, accompanied by words, best of luck. I would read these letters of regret filled with so much sorrow as I thought to myself, how can institutions, persons, individuals, ministries, organizations, business entities be so comfortable in saying no to the now confirmed future of Africa? When did it become so normal to say no to people that are ascending to the leadership of Africa? When we got to the place of understanding that this is a journey that we must experience on our own, we realized that the road to the summit taught us that we have to experience what the ancestors experienced when they started their young, passionate journeys as African leaders. We have set a precedent that we understand that not everybody would share in the vision for a better Africa. As young, passionate African leaders, we have defined our mission and we will fulfill it until the ages come to collect us. Excuse me. Distinguished guests, allow me to quote from one of my favorite people, the late Thomas Sankara, and I quote, "We must dare to reinvent the future. Everything and every man is capable of imagining. Thus, he can create," quote, unquote. And also allow me to quote from the best second favorite person, Frantz Fanon. This is a quote I've held very dear to my heart. This is a quote that the Pan-African Renaissance has held very dear to its heart, and I quote, each generation of relative obscurity must define its mission, which it must either fulfill or betray, quote unquote. The Pan-African Renaissance has decided to be better leaders for the next dispensation. We have decided that since we have identified our mission, we will deliver it until the ages come to collect us. Ladies and gentlemen, PAR has been in existence for over 7 years. We started off as an online group, turned into a movement, and we've just transitioned into an organization. Our aim is to be the heirs to Africa's leadership. In fact, we are the heirs to Africa's leadership. The summit's vision to build forums and platforms dedicated to giving young people enough comprehensive and innovative programs that serve the African youth and its agenda. As the heirs to Africa's leadership, we have a clear position on some of the things that we want to see change. African public health care, African education system, safety and security of Africa, Africans in the diaspora, as we have a lot of Africans that are migrating to the West, into the Americanas. And as we all know, the young people, the young professionals are assets to their states. Equally, we want to see the full empowerment, representation, and participation of women and young people within decision-making and strategic bodies, such as AFTA, the AUN itself, NEPAD, the Pan-African Parliament. We want to see women at the forefront. The summit wishes to discourse, dissect, and resolute on pertinent topics like part of our 6 thematics, the first one being political and economic governance, African public health systems, African public education system, African safety and security, international relations and diplomacy in the African context, and the role of young people therein, and Africans in the diaspora. We want to understand that even though we have Africans in the diaspora, what then can their role be from wherever they are? A time has come to move away from show-off forums and deliver tangible deliverables. As young Africans, we equally have realized that we have not made the job of our elderly any easier. For we become irrational, we become robust, we become radical, and we forget that you can say the right thing with the wrong attitude and it comes out wrong. The Summit and PAR are stern promoters and advocates for efficient, effective, and transparent governance, transformational leadership, and succession leadership. We want to assist our leaders in understanding that planning is better, for if you do not plan, you plan to fail. Africa requires a decisive young leaders that aims at developing our continent strategically. Hence, ours is to deliver a political and corrupt-free African economic agenda. As young professionals and transformational leaders, the summit wishes to create a platform or a high-level platform that harnesses the African voice, that makes fellow African young leaders realize that there is enough space to share. There is no need for us to hoard power. There is no need for us to centralize power. There is no need for us to limit access to each other. You can clap for me. The Pan-African Renaissance equally promotes one identity. Though we are many, and it is true, we are very many people. Though we are different, and it is true, we are very different people. Though we may come from different regions, different backgrounds, different cultures, it is important that we first identify as Africans before our nationalities. PAR has the following objectives that they have drastically worked on. We aim to advance and support the transformation of the continuation of Africa and the united federation system that aims to protect and safeguard democracy and its sovereignty and benefits the people. We aim to establish lean but decisive communities in villages, towns, cities across Africa that will create a conducive environment for the realization of the initial agenda of Africa's founders and Pan-Africanism. We aim to organize and mobilize the grassroots to support and advance young, uncompromised leaders into leadership positions, political positions of change across the African continent. The saying that politics is corrupt or the saying that politics is dirty does not suffice, for it is not the system or it is not the programs that are corrupt. It is the people that become greedy along the way. Ours is to support, uphold, and stand by movements, associations, societies, clubs, organizations that are champion pro-African agendas, such as land rights, restorations for indigenous people in Africa. We want to ensure that our people do not live in abject poverty because Africa is blessed to have enough resources. Ladies and gentlemen, this summit is themed building an ecosystem of transformative leadership. PAR and its leadership and followers believes in result-oriented leadership, a leadership that practices what it preaches, that advances humanity, and that needs to deliver a united, self-reliant, emancipated, and independent Africa. Ours is to deliver critical and forward-thinking, robust dialogues with decorum, sustainable innovation that will remain the principles that guide us. Many left us along the road. Some couldn't make it due to last-minute work commitments. Others just decided that they will not come to this meeting. Others couldn't fund the airfare. Others couldn't just take priority to the summit. However, against all these threats, we are here and we are hosting the summit. Our dear friend, Madam Milka Mungunda, she refused to give up on us. And we are saying this openly, Madam Right Honorable Prime Minister, because we want you to see how much she matters to us. When so many doors were closed and we ran to her with tears in our eyes, for we are determined to deliver an Africa of young leaders that are determined, that are resilient, that never gives up, that are willing to stand even if there were only 10 or 5 people at this summit. Madam Mungunda looked us in the eyes and said, there is no need for you guys to struggle. Can you please give her a round of applause? When our finances dried out, she was that one person that said, I am a friend to the confirmed future of Africa. I am a friend to young people that are not here to complain. I am a friend to young people that are discussing pertinent issues and that are delivering solutions and resolutions to Africa. There are no words to express enough gratitude, Ms. Mungunda, as PAR is privileged to have such a strong and exemplary mother figure in you. We salute the Right Honorable Prime Minister. We salute Dr. Martha Umati of Erongo Marine. We salute Pereira Fishing. We salute Minister Klassen. We salute Madam Tanya Hangula. We salute Mr. Vaino Ngipondoka. We salute the Social Security Commission. We salute the Pan-African Parliament for coming to our aid and for standing strong with us. We are here today because of your unwavering support and for believing enough in us and coming to our aid. May the ancestors strengthen every single bone in your body. May they revive your spirits and give you long life. May you live long to see us as we deliver the African economic agenda. Madam Honorable Right Prime Minister, in conclusion, this initiative is only the beginning of a new revolution of economic and social emancipation. It is going to give birth to a new mindset, new desires, new dreams, and new vision. A leadership with skills, with capacity, with inclusive vision, with the collective in mind. But we shall emerge stronger than today. And because of this, a new dawn has come upon this continent. Amandla! Amandla! Long live the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Madam Kubongula Madila. Long live! Long live the Prime Minister, Madam Kubongula Madila. Long live! Long live the founding matron, Her Excellency Mildred Yankees. Long live! Long live Madam Zanella Mazbuka, the VC of PAR. Long live! Long live all invited guests. Long live! Long live Madam Moka Mungunda, Executive Director of Social Security Commission. Long live! Long live Comrade Mr. Austin Samupa, the ED of Soul Party. Long live! Long live everybody. Long live! Long live Comrade members of the media present. Long live! Long live Madam Sarah Lee Ilago, the chairperson of the Pan-African Renaissance. Long live! Long live the spirit of no surrender. Long live! Amandla! Amandla! Larga vida, Dr. Semyoma, larga vida. Larga vida is long live in Espanol, yeah? Larga vida, Samora Machel of Mozambique. Long live! Long live Umze Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya. Long live! Long live Umze Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. Long live! Long live Kwame Nkrumah. Long live! Long live Frantz Fanon of Algeria. Long live! Long live Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia. Long live! I'm saying long live because even though they have passed away, their spirits are here today. You must catch up to my energy. I thank you.
That definitely another round of applause. That definitely deserves another round of applause. Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for those invigorating, welcoming remarks. From my side, I think my key takeaways would be: one, if you want to receive ancestral blessings and a mention in Comrade Chair's next speech, please give us money. We need it to host the next summit. Please give us money. So that would be the first. And as you so rightly put it, we must dare to reinvent the future. And I want us all in this room to internalize this statement as our first call of action for the proceedings, right? And this should be one of those statements that underpin all our discussions moving forward, as per the mandate of Comrade Chair. Now, without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Zirare P. Firi, the Secretary General of the Pan-African Renaissance, but who might be better known to some of you as a youth advocate, an activist, politician, and the founder of the Youth for Democracy and Development, an NGO that promotes civic education, human rights, and social accountability in Malawi. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Piri. Comrade Chair Madam Chair is really dominating this whole program. But yes, another round of applause for her, please.
On the established protocol, I just want to say something small. As directed by the SG of PAR, he was ready and stationed to come, but his daughter decided to come earlier than anticipated. His wife gave birth to a bouncing baby girl, and that's why he couldn't be here. Yeah. And he just said something small. Of course, he had set up a speech, but then we said it's not need for us to read the speech. It's just to say that he appreciates everybody being here. He appreciates the Right Honourable Prime Minister. He appreciates Madam Mildred. He appreciates everybody that comes here, and he wishes us fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Another round of applause. Please just we can compete with a lot of things, but we cannot compete with the birth of a blessing. We cannot compete with that. Nothing competes. But there's been a change in our program. Mr. Solomon Onyango is unfortunately unable to join us today, so we'll just be moving swiftly along with our program. But all that means is that I get to introduce our next speaker a little earlier, and I am excited about that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my next speaker is a South African feminist, activist, and diplomat who has served as the executive secretary for the Pan-African Women's Organization and the founding matron of PAR. She's also a former ambassador of South Africa to Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the African Union. She's widely regarded as one of the most influential and inspiring women when it comes to championing the causes of human rights, women's rights, empowerment, and liberation in all spheres of life. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome Her Excellency Mildred Jantjies.
Good morning. Before going through all the protocols, there are some accolades that are handed over to me by the Master of Ceremonies that will definitely need correction later in the day. I am the former executive secretary of Pan-African Women Organization, and I am the ambassador emeritus of the struggle of the Western Sahara women. And all the other places you mentioned, it's places I did go to, but I did not head. Bless you all. Honorable Prime Minister, Comrade Sarah, President of PAR, again my daughter Sarah. We have the Executive Director of PAR. We have the Secretary General, who is absent, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed. In these unprecedented times, as we come together under the theme, building an ecosystem of transformative leaders, our hearts, mostly all of us if not, are heavy with deep empathy and sympathy for the profound loss of lives across the African continent and beyond due to the ravages of COVID-19. This relentless pandemic has left immeasurable pain and sorrow in its wake, affecting countless families and communities in each of the member states of PAR. Our thoughts are with those who have suffered, and we extend our heartfelt, belated condolences to all who lost loved ones, friends, and families. This summit holds even greater significance as we gather to address the challenges and aspirations that face our great continent, Africa. The impact of the pandemic has been far-reaching, touching every aspect of our lives. It is a stark reminder of our shared vulnerability, the urgency for unity, and the need for visionary leadership. The journey to this moment has been marked by adversity, including the unfortunate delay of this summit due to the unforeseen effects of the pandemic. As we convene today, let us acknowledge the resilience that resides within us. PAR mission forward a federation of African states becomes more vital than ever. The collective strength of our people and the power of unity are essential in our overcoming the challenges that are ahead. I thank you once more again for gathering here under the theme, Building an Ecosystem of Transformative Leaders, a theme that resonates deeply with the aspirations of our great continent, Africa. As we embark on the collective journey, I am reminded of the words of Marcus Mosier Garvey, a true visionary who championed self-identity, self-worth, self-reliance, and self-improvement for the Black community. His call for us to be arbiters of our own destiny is a beacon guiding us towards a brighter future. It is an honor to stand before you today as a patron of this monumental event. The PAR's mission towards a federation of African states is a call to action that transcends borders and unites us in our pursuit of just and equitable order. This summit brings together young and seasoned PAR personalities who continue to shape the discourse within our contemporary context, fueling the fires of progress and unity across the African continent. In the company of such wisdom and knowledge, I'm humbled to contribute to the discussions that will take place during this summit. Our purpose here is not only to share insights, but also to take stock of our progress and collectively reason on the way forward. As we reflect on the theme, we must recognize that our individual and collective roles are critical in realizing the vision of a united and prosperous Africa. Today, I wish to dedicate my remarks to the gallant women and men of Africa, the revolutionaries. We have ignited the flame of women and men activism that we commemorate within the Young African Leadership Summit this year. Their unwavering commitment to justice, equality, and progress has paved the way for the transformative leaders that stand before us today. We must carry forward their legacy, acknowledging the progress we have made while recognizing the challenges that still lie ahead. While we gather to discuss the critical topics of political economic governance, African healthcare systems, education, and international relations, we must also address the glaring disparities that persist. We look at the advancements made by the youth and women in first world countries, and we marvel at their achievements. Yet despite our numerous, I say numerous, initiatives and platforms, we find ourselves lagging behind on the global stage. The African youth, the largest population of our continent, remains neglected and underserved. We are not devoid of obstacles. The lack of unity amongst African states, tribalism, and other internal divisions continue to impede our progress. These challenges are our own, and it is our collective duty to overcome them. We must remember that the philosophy of PAR, which Pan-Africanism, which awakened a consciousness against oppression and colonial domination, also calls us to transcend these divisions and forge a path of unity. As we engage in these discussions, I also wish to bring to light some vital topics that are often overlooked but hold immense potential for our empowerment. The fourth industrial revolution, Web3, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, fintech, tokenization of African natural resources, and climate change are forces shaping a global landscape. These concepts have the power to uplift our people from poverty and usher us into a new era of prosperity. The lack of representation of these themes in our discussion is a missed opportunity. We must embrace this concept, adapt them to our context, and harness their potential to drive our economic transformation. The fourth and fifth industrial revolutions hold the key to shaping the future of our continents. And it is our responsibility as young leaders to be at the forefront of this revolution. In conclusion, Madam Chair, I implore all of you to be inspired by the spirit of the Pan-African Renaissance, to embrace the ideals of unity, justice, and equity that have guided us thus far. Let us remember that the African Renaissance is not just a philosophical movement, it is a call to action. It is a reminder that we have the power to shape our destiny, to create the Africa we envision, and to build an ecosystem of transformative leaders that will uplift our people for generations to come. Thank you, and may your collective efforts bring about dawn of a new era for Africa, the Africa we want. God bless us and God bless Africa.
Thank you so much, Her Excellency. If we could kindly just please give her another round of applause for those amazing remarks. Now, as you so rightly put it, our purpose here is not just to share insights, but to collectively craft the way forward. So this is just not another conference where we sit and then we speak and then this ends here. We're here to come up with tangible solutions and the way on the Africa we want and the Africa we want. Now, having said that, it is very important on crafting, as we craft the way forward, that we have people in the room that can help us set the parameters on how it is that we should go forward as we undertake this journey, correct? And having said that, it is then just right that we have our keynote speaker, the Right Honorable Sarah Kwangela Amadila, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia, who exemplifies transformative leadership that spans various domains. It is just right that we give the platform over to her to come and imbue us with knowledge as it relates to our agenda points for today.
Very much. Please take your seats. Director of Proceedings, Your Excellency Mildred Yankees, former PAO Executive Secretary for Southern Africa. It's a pleasure to see you this morning. It's been a long time. Your Excellency Sarah Lee Elago, Chairperson of PAR and President of the African Youth Union, Madam Zanele Mazibuko, Vice Chairperson of PAR, Mr. Zirare Piti, Secretary General of PAR, other members of the leadership of PAR and delegates from different countries in the AU. I see also the CEO of the Social Security Commission. It seems that she's the one that everyone goes to when they are in crisis. When I needed to raise funds for the constituency youth enterprises, I also pulled her in, and she came through for us. I hope that is for you. Good morning to you and welcome. Distinguished invited guests, I see my colleague there, Comrade Samupwa, and a number of other youth that are playing an important role in the development of this country and the continent, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you all. I am indeed pleased to join you here today at the start of your 2 days engagement as Africa's youth to ponder over the important issue of building an ecosystem of transformative leaders on the continent that can navigate the continent through the multiple challenges that it faces and steward it towards inclusive development and prosperity. It is inspiring that Africa's youth recognizes and appreciates the importance of effective and transformative leadership as a prerequisite for the continent's transformation and the contribution of the youth to achieving that. I commend the leadership of the African Youth Union for organizing this summit, and I thank them profoundly for granting me the honor of addressing you. The Pan-African Renaissance advocates for a transformative African leadership that upholds good governance and invests in the development of the continent's youth as the agents of the continent's transformation and its future leaders. The theme of this summit is most befitting as the continent embarks on the implementation of Agenda 2063. The genesis of Agenda 2063 was the desire to focus Africa's agenda to inclusive social and economic development, continental and regional integration, democratic governance, and peace and security, aimed at repositioning Africa to become a dominant player in the global arena. As an affirmation of their commitment to support Africa's new path for attaining inclusive and sustainable economic growth and development, African heads of state and government signed the 50th anniversary solemn declaration during the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the formation of the OAU, or now AU, in May of 2013. The declaration marked the rededication of Africa towards the attainment of the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the international arena, and Agenda 2063 is the strategy by which the continent intends to achieve this vision within a 50-year period from 2013 to 2063. The need to envision a long-term 50-year development trajectory for Africa is important, as Africa needs to revise and adopt its development agenda due to ongoing structural transformations. The continent has experienced increased peace, which is good, and reduction in the number of conflicts, although it is worrying that we still have trouble spots on the continent. We can never have development if we have wars and we lack peace. It is also important that we are recording, and good for us, that we are recording higher economic growth in many of our countries. And we are making more investments in social progress. That we now recognize that it's important that development is human-centered, that it brings about the improvement in the welfare of people, and that it's not enough to have a higher growth of GDP. It is also impressive, it is inspiring to note that there is a greater appreciation for gender equality and youth empowerment, as we are seeing an increased representation of women and young people in positions of responsibilities, both in government and in private sector. We are also noting that there is a change in the global context, such as the globalization that is now with us, and the world has become a village, and also the revolution in the ICT sector that would require us to adjust the way that we do things in order to benefit therefrom. This is also happening in a situation where there is increased unity in Africa, as demonstrated by the African Free Trade Agreement. We now no longer want to restrict the movement of goods and persons and investments between our countries, because we realize that our survival in the global community is better when we are united and we work together as an Africa, and that we grow together as a continent. We are also experiencing an increase in investment in areas such as agribusinesses, infrastructure development, health and education, as well as in value-added activities. Africa is now one of the leading destinations for investment, and we need to make sure that those investments would translate in more economic activities and entrepreneurship amongst Africans, and also improved welfare conditions for Africa. Agenda 2063 encapsulates not only Africa's aspiration for the future, but also contains strategic programs which can boost Africa's economic growth and development and lead to the rapid transformation of the continent. The agenda thus defines key interventions to be undertaken in its 10-year implementation plan, which will ensure that the objectives that we have set out for ourselves are realized. Agenda 2063 acknowledges the importance of and prioritizes the development amongst Africa's youth. And the government of Namibia has streamlined this agenda into its national policies. Towards this end, the government of Namibia has been prioritizing youth leadership development, developing their leadership in all areas, in politics, in business, in the labor market, in the academia, in research and innovation, and indeed in all areas of human endeavor. This prioritization of youth development comes through in the nature of the programs under our development policies, from Vision 2030 to the NDPs and Harambee Prosperity 1 and 2. The government also adopted a national youth policy as a guide for youth development programs in our country. Since the adoption of the national youth policy, several developments have been implemented in Namibia to realize this objective of empowering our youth. One, we have a dedicated youth ministry. We have a National Youth Council and the National Youth Service, all of which aim to support youth leadership development and their economic empowerment. The government has set up a youth funding scheme at the State Development Bank and reserves a portion of public tender to youth enterprises to support the development of entrepreneurship amongst the youth. The government has started with the establishment of youth enterprises in each of the constituencies of all our 14 regions and has adopted a program where unemployed artisans are supported to practice their skills and gain experience by being deployed to renovate and upgrade government buildings through direct tenders without requiring them to participate in open bidding. Government also implements an internship program in the public sector to enable students and graduates to gain practical experience, either to graduate or for them to enter the labor market. And we are currently busy developing a national internship policy. At the last meeting, the deliberative cabinet meeting, we also looked at how we can incentivize financially employers to take on board young people for internship, because experience is very important for them to get employed and also to start their businesses. And I must indicate that when it comes to the internship program of the government, we spend close to 200 million per annum to fund this training of these young people. And we have actually created positions on the establishment where they are deployed. In the health sector, for example, where they need to go through internship to be able to be registered and be able to practice, or in engineering. So we have done that, and we are calling upon the private sector to support these efforts of government. And we are hoping that the Development Fund of the Social Security Commission would also come through for us and support the efforts that we are making, as they did with the funding of the constituency youth enterprises. The government of Namibia has been implementing targeted programs on top of these ones that I have outlined to ensure that the Namibian youth are educated and therefore have the necessary skills, that they are motivated, they are confident, assiduous, responsible and healthy, and are thus empowered to play their role in the development of the country and of the continent. The African continent needs well-organized youth leaders to foster development for the future generations. Well-organized youth demographic majority has a meaningful role to play in championing and implementing development programs and holding elected leaders accountable. In fact, I was saying that whereas we may not have a lot of young people in the senior positions, you know, in government, for example, all the important policies of government are actually crafted by young people. Yeah? So the education policy that in the past was saying a young person that gets pregnant must be chased out of school was drafted by young people. The minister only took it to cabinet and then took it to parliament. But it was the young graduates that are working in government ministries that formulated that. And it was them that came back to say, no, these young people cannot be punished. Because when you kick this kid out of school, they may not come back to school after delivering. And their child is going to be born in poverty. And so poverty would be passed on from one generation to another. So we would want our young people, when they make that mistake once and they get pregnant before they finish their school, to be able to come back. And we are hoping that they will have learned a lesson, that they will now go through the whole system until they graduate, because we have observed that unemployment is lower amongst the graduates. Although we see now that there is an increase in the number of unemployed graduates, and that is why we have come up with the initiatives of the kind that I have outlined in order to address that. And we have confidence that working with you, utilizing your ingenuities and creativities and energies, we are going to overcome the challenges that we face with youth unemployment. And we are going to assist you to play the role that you must and you are able, and I'm sure you are willing to play, to ensure that Africa is emancipated economically and that it takes its place in the global, a rightful place in the global community. And I was saying to my colleagues here before we came here that our leaders who are now in their 80s and in their 90s were only 20-something at the time that they started the revolutions in their own countries. And things were very, very difficult. But they decided not to complain to the elders, but to take the responsibility to bring about this change. We now have them with us. We should benefit from their guidance and their mentorship so that we can continue from where they have left to make Africa what it can be, a prosperous continent that does not only provide for Africans, but can actually provide for the whole world, but with us as Africans being the primary beneficiaries of the growth that Africa can generate because of the abundant resources that we have as we had. So thank you once more for inviting me here. I think that this is an opportunity for you to break ice also amongst the youth from different countries, you know, because actually before Europeans came to our continent, we were just one people. We were moving from one place to another, you know. We did not need to apply for a visa to go to a country. You just go to Nigeria and you report yourself to the king, isn't it? And I have a friend here who is staying with me, or I have my 5th cousin's child who will now be living here and may actually need to be allocated a plot. So we should move towards that. An Africa that is integrated in all sense of the word, you know. An Africa where people move freely with one passport without a need for a visa, where you can set up a business wherever you want, where you can sell your goods wherever you want, where you can become a lecturer wherever you want, where we can look at our indigenous knowledge and develop it and make sure that we stop this process of our knowledge being patented by other people and the products that are ours being sold to us at exorbitant prices, such that we cannot even afford them. Other people are actually benefiting from that. And so that we can pass on this knowledge and continue to develop it. Because when you look at what we had achieved several hundred years ago, you can just imagine if our development was not interrupted by colonialism, where we would be. If those that copied from us are where they are, imagine where we could be. So if we can just stop discriminating against one another, if we can stop poor governance, if we can stop conflict, if we can stop this silo mentality and unite in every sense of the world, then nobody can stop us from being on top of the world. All the best.
Very powerful and thought-provoking sentiments shared by our Right Honourable Prime Minister there. If we could kindly just please give another round of applause. Now, for those of you that might not know, but I'm sure you might have picked it up during her opening remarks, our Prime Minister is a distinguished, trailblazing Namibian politician and economist that embodies transformative leadership with a profound impact. Now, her tenure as Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia since 2015 marks a historic milestone as Namibia's first woman to hold this position. And I think that deserves a round of applause. And while she's leading the nation's executive branch, she's been very pivotal in steering the country towards economic and inclusive growth and development. Now, the Right Honourable's transformative leadership extends beyond economic empowerment and further into championing rights as it relates to gender equality, women's empowerment, and women's active participation in governance. As a distinguished diplomat, she has represented Namibia on international platforms, fostering collaboration and alliances for regional and global development. Her achievements have earned her numerous awards and accolades, serving as a testament to her exceptional contributions to national development, gender equity, and the realization of a more just and prosperous Namibia. It is truly an honor to have her here in our midst today. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on where you look at it, we have officially reached the end of our opening session. Now, just a few announcements. We will be taking pictures, right, with the Right Honorable, just so you guys can have it in your gallery and so you guys can show people that you actually met her, so that you can have proof. So we will be taking pictures with the Right Honorable Sarakwa Ngela Madila right in front here. I will indicate when we can move to the podium. Our photographer is on standby waiting for us. That will be the first. After the picture session, we will be taking a break for 15 minutes. It is currently 10:26, so let me be lenient. Let us be back by 10:45. So you guys can head out, use the bathroom facilities, grab a tea and coffee, and network and work on that regional integration that our Prime Minister was just talking about, okay? If we could all just kindly move to Madam Chair, you have. My apologies, just in terms of protocol, can we please have Comrade Austin and Comrade Milka on the podium for a picture together with our high table? As they make their way up to the stage, can we please have some music? Just something. Give us life.
Those that were in the briefing very quickly, those that were Dr. Matthew, Patrick, Marvin, Madam Zanelle, those that were in the briefing, please just come.
Now more young faces.
Yes, now you can sit down.
I think they can.
Or, okay, we can come down. Okay.
No, we can stand, they can be in front here.
Or we can still stand in front.
No, you guys can stand, they can be in front.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
We
Staying here.
Yes.
Should we talk? You gotta mix it up a little.
Yes, the ladies are up.
Where's the man? Where's the man?
The
Where's the man?
best
Please.
I switch. Why can't I be here?
Can we have everyone else just please come up? Everyone, so that we can take
Please come.
a group
Everyone,
photo.
come.
It's not okay to have chairs here, then they get standing. So like,
The Lavinia must just coordinate. Please, everybody, come.
I think
Gabi, is it too late? I don't know how we're going to do it. Is it okay if others come at the back? Yeah, can some just come here at the back, please? Eh? It's not allowed. Oh, sorry, it's not allowed. Eh, you know what? Can we have the short swap?
Come down. Make them
All go down.
go down.
Are we winning?